Most men think they understand attraction, until one day they realize the woman they love has slowly pulled away without ever explaining why. And what makes it worse is this. Many women don't leave because love disappeared. They leave because something inside the relationship quietly stopped feeling alive. Here's the truth most people never talk about. Attraction in long-term relationships isn't just built on love, loyalty, or commitment. Those things matter, but they don't keep emotional energy alive by themselves. What keeps desire alive is something far more subtle: curiosity, emotional safety, and the feeling that a relationship is still expanding instead of shrinking. And this is where many couples unknowingly start drifting apart, not because they stopped caring, but because they stopped exploring each other's emotional worlds. You see, many women carry desires in relationships that they rarely say out loud, not because they're manipulative, not because they're hiding secrets, but because society quietly teaches people, especially women, that expressing certain emotional or romantic needs might be misunderstood, judged, or dismissed. So instead of saying those things openly, they keep them inside. And over time, those unspoken desires become silent expectations. If those expectations remain unseen for too long, something subtle happens. The emotional spark begins to fade. Now, this isn't about blame. Men and women both struggle with communication in relationships. Both sides misunderstand each other constantly, but understanding what often goes unsaid can completely change the direction of a relationship. Because when someone feels deeply understood, something powerful happens. They relax, they open up, and suddenly the connection becomes stronger than it was before. One of the biggest misunderstandings about women is the idea that their desires are complicated mysteries. In reality, most of them are surprisingly human. The problem isn't complexity. The problem is that many couples stop paying attention to the emotional signals that reveal what someone truly wants. At the beginning of a relationship, curiosity is everywhere. You ask questions, you notice small details, you try to understand what makes the other person smile. But as time passes, routines take over. Conversations become predictable, surprises disappear, and both partners slowly assume they already know everything about each other. But human beings are not static. We change, our needs evolve, our emotional desires grow deeper. And when those changes aren't noticed, relationships start feeling smaller than the people inside them. For many women, intimacy is not just about physical closeness. It's about emotional presence, feeling seen, feeling like the person beside them is still curious about who they are becoming. That curiosity, that sense of discovery, is one of the most powerful forces in attraction. Without it, relationships can slowly turn into something that feels more like routine companionship than romantic partnership. Now, here's something that may surprise you. Many women actually want to feel more emotionally adventurous in their relationships. Not reckless, not chaotic, but alive. They want moments that break routine, moments where the relationship feels spontaneous again, moments where they feel emotionally desired, not just appreciated. And the reason this matters is because appreciation and desire are not the same thing. Appreciation says, "I'm glad you're here." Desire says, "I still choose you." One creates comfort, the other creates excitement. Healthy relationships need both, but many couples slowly replace desire with comfort alone. Comfort is safe, comfort is predictable, comfort is peaceful, but comfort by itself rarely creates emotional intensity. And intensity, not drama, but emotional depth, is what keeps relationships feeling meaningful. When that emotional depth disappears, people begin to feel something they often struggle to explain. They start feeling invisible, not unloved, just unseen. And when someone feels unseen for long enough, they begin wondering if their inner world still matters to the person beside them. This is where communication becomes incredibly important. Not surface-level communication like, "How was your day?" but deeper curiosity. Questions that show genuine interest. Listening that isn't just waiting for your turn to speak. Because when someone feels safe enough to express their desires, emotional, romantic, or personal, a relationship becomes a place of growth instead of silence. And this is something many couples discover too late. The strongest relationships aren't built on perfection. They're built on understanding. Understanding what someone says, and what they struggle to say, understanding what they show openly and what they hide quietly, understanding the difference between comfort and connection, because connection requires attention. And attention is the rarest gift we can give another person in a world full of distractions. When someone feels truly understood, something changes in the way they show up in the relationship. They become warmer, more playful, more emotionally open, and suddenly the relationship feels less like something that needs fixing and more like something worth protecting. But to reach that level of connection, both people need to be willing to look beyond the obvious, beyond routines, beyond assumptions, beyond the idea that they already know everything about the person they love, because the truth is, most people never stop discovering new sides of the person they're with. The question is whether they're still paying attention. And when that attention returns, relationships that once felt ordinary can start feeling meaningful again. Not because something dramatic changed overnight, but because someone finally started listening to what was always there beneath the surface. And once you begin noticing those quiet emotional signals, you start understanding people in a completely different way. There's a moment that quietly happens in many relationships, and most people never notice it while it's happening. It's the moment when curiosity slowly fades and routine quietly takes its place. At first, everything about each other felt exciting. Every conversation felt like discovering a new chapter in a book you couldn't put down. But as months or years pass, something subtle changes. Life becomes structured. Work schedules, responsibilities, familiar habits, and slowly, the relationship becomes predictable. Predictability isn't always bad. In many ways, it creates stability and safety. But when predictability becomes the only emotional experience inside a relationship, something important begins to fade. The feeling of discovery. Many women quietly crave moments where the relationship feels alive again, moments where the emotional energy feels new, even if the relationship itself isn't. This doesn't mean they want chaos or instability. It means they want to feel that the relationship is still evolving. One thing many women secretly appreciate but rarely directly request is emotional initiative, not control, not dominance, initiative. The feeling that their partner is willing to lead moments of connection instead of waiting for them to appear. This might look like planning something unexpected. It might be creating an experience that breaks routine, even in a small way. What matters isn't the size of the gesture, it's the message behind it. The message says, I'm still thinking about you, I'm still invested in us. And when someone feels that energy from their partner, it reignites something powerful, because desire often grows where effort is visible. Another quiet desire many women carry is the need to feel emotionally pursued even after the relationship becomes stable. At the beginning of relationships, pursuit is natural. People go out of their way to show interest. They express appreciation openly. They notice details. But after commitment becomes established, many people assume the pursuit stage is over. That assumption slowly drains energy from the relationship. Because while commitment creates security, emotional pursuit keeps attraction alive. Feeling pursued doesn't mean constant attention or pressure. It simply means feeling chosen again and again, feeling like the person beside you still sees you as someone worth impressing, worth surprising, worth discovering. And this feeling creates something incredibly powerful inside relationships. It creates emotional momentum. Momentum is what makes people look forward to spending time together instead of just sharing space. Another thing many women quietly appreciate is emotional confidence from their partner. Confidence is often misunderstood. It's not arrogance, it's not loud behavior. Real confidence is calm, it's grounded, it's the ability to be emotionally present without becoming defensive or withdrawn when conversations become deeper. When someone can listen without immediately trying to fix or control the situation, they create a sense of emotional safety. And emotional safety is one of the strongest foundations of intimacy. Without it, people slowly begin hiding parts of themselves. But when someone feels safe expressing their thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment, something incredible happens. They open up in ways they never expected. And those moments of openness create a type of closeness that routines alone can never produce. Another quiet desire many women hold is the wish to feel admired. Not just appreciated for what they do, but admired for who they are. There's a difference between those two things. Appreciation often focuses on actions. Thank you for helping with this. I appreciate what you did today. Admiration goes deeper. It recognizes character, personality, individuality. It says, I notice who you are. Many people underestimate how powerful that feeling is, because admiration reminds someone that their presence matters beyond responsibilities or roles. It reminds them that the relationship isn't just about tasks and obligations. It's about connection between two unique individuals. Another emotional experience many women quietly value is playfulness. Playfulness might sound simple, but it's one of the strongest indicators of a healthy connection. When couples laugh together, tease each other lightly, and share moments of spontaneous fun, it keeps the relationship feeling youthful and alive. Without playfulness, relationships can become serious too quickly. They turn into partnerships focused only on responsibilities, bills, work, plans, logistics. All of those things matter, but they don't create emotional excitement. Playfulness reminds both people why they enjoyed each other's company in the first place. It keeps conversations from becoming mechanical. It creates shared memories instead of just shared routines. And perhaps one of the most meaningful desires many women carry, though they rarely phrase it this way, is the desire to feel emotionally understood without always having to explain themselves. This doesn't mean mind reading. No one expects their partner to magically know everything they're thinking, but people deeply appreciate when their partner tries to notice patterns, when they pay attention to emotional signals, when they remember the little things that matter. Those small observations send a powerful message. They show effort, they show care, and they show that someone is truly paying attention. In a world where many people feel ignored or overlooked, that level of attention becomes incredibly meaningful. The truth is, most long-term attraction isn't maintained through grand gestures. It's maintained through consistent emotional awareness, through curiosity that never fully disappears, through the willingness to keep learning about the person beside you. Relationships don't lose their spark overnight. The spark fades slowly when people stop noticing each other, when they stop asking questions, when they assume the story is already fully written. But the most fulfilling relationships never stop evolving. They grow because both people remain interested in discovering who their partner is becoming. And when that discovery continues, something surprising happens. Even familiar relationships start feeling exciting again, not because everything changed, but because someone finally began paying attention to the quiet emotional signals that were always there. And once those signals are seen and understood, connection becomes deeper than it was before. Because the strongest relationships aren't built on guessing games. They're built on awareness, curiosity, and the courage to keep learning about the person you thought you already knew. Something interesting happens when a relationship begins to feel deeply secure. On the surface, everything looks stable. The conversations are familiar. The routines are predictable. Life moves forward in a comfortable rhythm. But inside that comfort, many people begin feeling a quiet emotional hunger they struggle to describe. It's not dissatisfaction, it's not a lack of love, it's something more subtle. It's the desire to feel emotionally alive inside the relationship again. Many women experience this feeling but rarely express it directly, not because they are hiding something, but because the language for these desires is often misunderstood. What they often crave is a deeper level of emotional intensity, moments where the connection feels meaningful, focused, and present. In everyday life, attention is scattered everywhere. Phones buzzing, notifications flashing, endless distractions pulling people away from each other. But intimacy, real intimacy, requires the opposite. It requires presence. When a woman feels that her partner is fully present with her, not half distracted, not mentally somewhere else, something powerful happens in her mind. Her emotional defenses lower. Her sense of connection strengthens, and suddenly, the relationship feels like a place where she can truly relax and be herself. Presence sounds simple, but in reality, it's one of the rarest experiences in modern relationships. Many couples spend hours in the same room while mentally living in completely different worlds. One person scrolling through their phone, the other lost in their own thoughts. They share space, but not attention. And attention is the real currency of emotional connection. Another quiet experience many women long for is the feeling of emotional polarity. Polarity is often misunderstood as conflict or dominance, but that's not what it really means. Healthy polarity is simply the feeling that two people bring different energies into a relationship in a way that complements each other. One person's calm balances the other's intensity. One person's playfulness softens the other's seriousness. When those differences are embraced instead of suppressed, relationships feel dynamic instead of flat. Without polarity, everything becomes emotionally neutral, predictable, safe, but not exciting. And while safety is essential, excitement is what makes a relationship feel vibrant. Another emotional experience that many women quietly value is being able to express vulnerability without feeling weak. Vulnerability is often mistaken for fragility, but real vulnerability requires courage. It means revealing fears, hopes, insecurities, and dreams that aren't always easy to talk about. When someone feels accepted in those moments instead of judged, the connection deepens dramatically. Because vulnerability creates trust, and trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. But trust isn't built through words alone. It's built through consistent behavior, through reliability, through the quiet reassurance that someone will remain emotionally present even when conversations become uncomfortable. When that type of emotional reliability exists, something interesting happens. People begin revealing sides of themselves they normally keep hidden. Not because they were hiding intentionally, but because they never felt safe enough to share them before. Another thing many women quietly appreciate is feeling desired for who they are, not just their appearance, not just their role in the relationship, but their personality, their humor, their energy. Physical attraction matters in relationships, of course, but long-term desire is rarely sustained by appearance alone. What keeps attraction alive over time is emotional fascination, the sense that the person beside you is still intriguing, still interesting, still someone you want to understand more deeply. This is why curiosity is one of the most underrated forces in relationships. When someone feels that their partner is genuinely curious about their thoughts, their dreams, and their experiences, they begin sharing more of themselves. And the more someone shares their inner world, the stronger the emotional bond becomes. Another hidden desire many women carry is the wish for moments of intentional connection. Moments where the outside world fades away and the relationship becomes the center of attention. These moments don't require luxury vacations or elaborate plans. Sometimes they are incredibly simple. A long conversation late at night, a walk without distractions, a quiet moment where both people are truly listening to each other. These moments create emotional memories, memories that remind both people why the relationship matters, because relationships are not sustained by time alone. They are sustained by meaningful experiences shared over time. When those experiences disappear, relationships start feeling mechanical, like two people simply moving through life side by side instead of deeply engaging with each other. And this is where many couples unknowingly lose the emotional depth that once brought them together. They become efficient partners, but distant lovers. They manage life well, but stop nurturing the emotional connection that made the relationship special. Yet the solution is rarely complicated. It begins with awareness of the emotional signals that often go unnoticed, the small moments where someone seeks attention but doesn't explicitly ask for it, the subtle expressions of appreciation that go unacknowledged, the quiet attempts to reconnect that pass by without recognition. When those moments start being noticed again, something shifts. Conversations become more meaningful, laughter returns more easily, and the relationship begins feeling less like a routine and more like a living connection between two evolving individuals. Because the truth is, most people don't need dramatic changes in their relationships. They simply need to feel that the connection still matters, that the effort is mutual, that the emotional bond is still worth protecting. And when both people begin paying attention again, the relationship often becomes stronger than it was before. Not because it returned to the excitement of the beginning, but because it matured into something deeper, something more intentional, something built not only on attraction, but on understanding. There is a quiet moment that happens in almost every relationship, a moment that determines whether the connection grows stronger over time or slowly fades into something ordinary. It's the moment when two people stop trying to understand each other. Not intentionally, not out of cruelty, but simply because life becomes busy and familiarity tricks them into believing they already know everything about the person beside them. And that assumption is one of the most dangerous things that can happen in a relationship. Because the truth is, no one is ever fully understood. People change, their desires evolve, their fears shift, their dreams grow in new directions. But when curiosity disappears from a relationship, those changes go unnoticed. And when someone feels like their inner world is no longer being discovered, something inside them begins to close, not all at once, slowly, quietly. At first, it might just feel like a little emotional distance. Conversations become shorter. The playful energy that once existed starts fading. Moments of connection become less frequent, and both people often sense something has changed, but neither one knows exactly how to bring the spark back. This is where many couples believe attraction has simply faded, but attraction rarely disappears for no reason. Most of the time, it fades because the emotional energy between two people stopped growing. Think about the beginning of almost every relationship. There was curiosity, attention, effort. Both people wanted to understand each other. Every story felt interesting. Every small detail felt meaningful. But over time, many couples stop doing the very things that created the connection in the first place. They stop asking deeper questions. They stop expressing admiration. They stop creating moments where the relationship feels special instead of routine. And slowly, the emotional excitement that once existed begins to disappear. Yet here's the truth that surprises many people. The spark in a relationship rarely dies completely. It simply goes quiet. And when the right emotional conditions return, that spark can reignite faster than people expect. Those conditions are surprisingly simple: attention, curiosity, and intentional effort. When someone feels truly seen again, something powerful happens inside them. Walls soften, warmth returns, conversations become more open. Because feeling understood is one of the deepest emotional needs human beings have, not just in romantic relationships, but in every connection we build. And this is why emotional awareness matters so much. When you start paying attention to the subtle signals your partner sends, the moments where they seek closeness, the moments where they express appreciation, the moments where they simply want to be heard, you begin responding in ways that strengthen the bond instead of weakening it. The strongest relationships aren't built by accident. They're built through consistent emotional investment, through small actions that quietly say, "You still matter to me," through moments of presence in a world full of distractions, through the willingness to keep discovering the person you thought you already knew. And when both people share that mindset, relationships evolve into something much deeper than attraction alone. They become partnerships built on trust, understanding, and mutual growth. The interesting thing about human psychology is that people rarely forget how someone made them feel. Long after specific conversations fade from memory, the emotional impact of those moments remains. When someone feels valued, respected, and emotionally understood, they carry that feeling with them. It shapes the way they show up in the relationship. It influences how they communicate, how they express affection, and how much effort they invest in keeping the connection alive. But when someone feels ignored or emotionally distant from their partner, that feeling also lingers. It slowly creates emotional barriers that become harder to remove over time. This is why awareness is so powerful. Because once you begin noticing the emotional dynamics inside a relationship, you gain the ability to change them. You begin choosing curiosity over assumption, presence over distraction, understanding over reaction. And those small choices create a completely different emotional environment, an environment where both people feel safe being themselves, where attraction grows naturally instead of being forced, where connection deepens instead of fading. Because at the end of the day, relationships are not sustained by perfection. They are sustained by effort, by the willingness to keep learning about the person beside you, by remembering that the relationship itself is something alive, something that needs attention, care, and curiosity to continue growing. When people stop nurturing that growth, relationships slowly shrink. But when people return to that mindset of discovery, something incredible happens. Even long-term relationships begin feeling new again, not because the past disappeared, but because both people chose to create a better future together. And that decision, the decision to keep understanding each other, is what separates ordinary relationships from extraordinary ones. Now, I want to ask you something personal. Think about your current relationship, or the last one you had. When was the last time you truly felt understood by the person you were with? Not just heard, but deeply understood. And if you're honest with yourself, do you feel like curiosity and emotional effort are still alive in that connection? Or have routine and assumptions quietly taken their place? Write your answer in the comments. Your experience might help someone else realize something important about their own relationship. And if this conversation made you see relationships from a new perspective, take a moment to support the channel. Like the video, subscribe, and share it with a friend who might need to hear this message today. Because sometimes one honest conversation can change the way people understand love forever.